Happy Halloween, everybody. I thought today it'd be fun to talk about the Halloween franchise itself. Halloween is, of course, one of the most iconic slasher franchises. It's got a ton of sequels. I think we're up to 13 at this point. Not all of them are good, but not all of them are bad. There's a lot of gems in the pile, and I thought it'd be fun to go through and give you my personal ranking. Now, most all of these movies I've seen recently in the past couple years. Some of these I've only seen once, and those watches were a couple years ago. Take this all with a grain of salt. It's totally my personal opinion. I'm sure all the comments will be very civil and nice. We all have opinions, guys, and everybody's entitled to their own. So if I like a movie that you think is crap and vice versa, I'm sure we can still get along. Not only will I be ranking the Halloween movies, I'm also going to be showing off my Halloween collection. I own every single movie, some multiple formats, so I figured I'll just show you what I have as I go through the movies. So without further ado, let's talk about the Halloween franchise. All right, so in my personal opinion, the weakest and worst of the Halloween franchise is actually playing behind me right now, and that's Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. This is one of the ones I've only seen once, and it was, I believe, a couple years ago at this point. I have not got a chance to check out my 4K copy. This is definitely due up for a rewatch. I want to see if maybe I missed something the first time around, but I did not have a good time with Halloween 5. It's boring. From what I can remember, most all of the kills are toned down, so you don't even really get fun, gory kills or anything like that. It's just a weird Halloween movie. The mask looks horrible. This has got to be the worst Michael Myers ever put to screen. It's just not a very good sequel. Again, that being said, I have not seen it in a little bit, so maybe going back to it, I'll find some things to love, but on my first initial watch, this is absolute bottom of the barrel of the franchise. There is one very funny and goofy moment in Halloween 5 that I do like a little bit just for how absurd it is. It's when Michael Myers is driving somebody around wearing a mask of a guy that he recently killed to try to blend in. And the passenger in the car with him actually tells Michael to stop and get cigarettes at like a gas station or a convenience store. And Michael Myers stops for cigarettes.
Stop here, I want a pack of cigarettes. I said stop the goddamn car, I want a pack of cigarettes.
Michael Myers is playing the long game in this movie. That always makes me chuckle a little bit, but yeah, terrible movie. Moving right along in the worst of the worst, I'm gonna put Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, as the next worst in the franchise. This is one I've only seen once. I have not seen the producer's cut yet, so I am interested to check that out. I heard it's a little bit better. But overall, this is just a confusing mess of a Halloween movie. It is notable for starring Paul Rudd, and I believe, if not one of his first roles. That is not enough to make a movie, though. The rest of this movie is just boring, nonsensical. They go way too deep into like the lore and the Curse of Thorn or whatever. I can't be bothered to care about any of that shit. It is still notable for the fact that it does have Donald Pleasence in what I believe is his final role. Donald Pleasence was the glue that held a lot of these earlier Halloween movies together. I think a lot of these earlier movies would not work without his chaotic energy that he brings, particularly Halloween 4. But yeah, Curse of Michael Myers is not a good movie. Again, maybe the producer's cut will play a little better for me on my second time around, but on a first viewing, crap. Halloween H2O. This might be a controversial pick. I'm sure a lot of people have nostalgia for this movie. I personally am not a huge fan. I think it was interesting to bring Jamie Lee Curtis back. She seemed game and excited to do it. Problem is the movie is just really boring. I'm just not totally into what they did with Jamie Lee Curtis's character. I'm not super invested in Josh Hartnett and his friends and that whole side. It doesn't really come together as a good Halloween movie for me personally. Very late 90s. It's written by Kevin Williamson, which is a plus, but it's living in the shadow of Scream. Aside from like the last 30 minutes, the final showdown, and Laurie Strode cutting off Michael Myers' head, which I still think is badass, it's just not a very interesting or entertaining Halloween movie. So yeah, while I can definitely admit that it's technically better than a lot of these sequels, for me personally, it's just a little too boring for me to want to rewatch or to put it above some of the other sequels that might widely be regarded as worse. We'll get to that in a second. Halloween Resurrection, if you can believe it, I do think is a better movie, or at least more entertaining movie than Halloween H2O, for me personally at least. I know this is widely regarded as being like the worst Halloween movie in the franchise, but hear me out for a second. There are no other movies in the Halloween franchise where you get to see this.
Let's see what you got.
Yes, that was Busta Rhymes roundhouse kicking Michael Myers in the face. That alone, I believe, is worth the watch. Now, don't get me wrong, this movie is definitely technically and objectively very, very bad. The whole beginning of this movie is an insult to both the character of Laurie Strode and Jamie Lee Curtis. I think she was like contractually obligated to come on for this like 15-minute cold open. It sucks. Michael Myers does not look scary or imposing in this movie, although I will say his mask is a little bit better than it was in Halloween H2O. The whole conceit of the kids with like webcams live streaming a night in the Myers house, like, first off, the technology was definitely not there for this in like 2001 or whenever this came out, but I do think it's something to get them in the Myers house. It's enough of an interesting setup that I'm on board for it, even though it's really stupid and trashy. Most of the movie is absolute garbage, but it's entertaining garbage, and for me, I'd rather watch something that's all out garbage than something that's boring. That's where I stand on Halloween Resurrection. All right, we're moving right along. Halloween Kills is going to be next up for me. Evil dies tonight! I recently just revisited this. I watched the extended cut on my DVD for the first time. This is not a good movie by any means, but I think it does do some things right. I think this has one of the most, if not the most, brutal portrayal of Michael Myers, the most scary and intimidating. James Jude Courtney is awesome in this role. I mean, in all three of the David Gordon Green movies, he is like the highlight. His performance as Michael Myers, his physicality, he's just terrifying. When he comes into a room, you just shit your pants. What else are you gonna do? The dude is absolutely fucking terrifying. He's imposing, he's big, he comes in, he kills people in the most brutal ways that I think we've ever seen in the franchise. In that aspect, Halloween Kills succeeds. There's some really cool set pieces, there's some really cool kills, there's some great gore, but not much else works for me here. The writing is terrible. That whole scene in the hospital is just absolute crap, but if you're looking for just kind of like a gory, turn your brain off kill fest, Halloween Kills succeeds. I really, really like the intro, how it directly picks up from Halloween 2018, and also the flashbacks to the 70s where they kind of recreated like the look of the original Halloween movie. All that stuff was cool, but it's just a jumbled mess of a movie. To go from Halloween 2018 to Halloween Kills is just an absolute fall off a cliff in quality, but it's definitely not the worst in the franchise. All right, to get a little bit more interesting here, Halloween 2007, a Rob Zombie film, is going to be next up for me. This and its sequel are the most recent Halloween movies that I've seen for the first time. I put off watching the Rob Zombie Halloween movies for a very long time. I don't know why. I just thought they weren't going to be for me personally. I think there was like a stink around these Halloween movies by Rob Zombie that I think still kind of follow them in reputation. They're interesting. Rob Zombie's not for everybody. For me personally, I'm becoming more of a fan the more I'm exposed to his work. If you couldn't tell, wearing a House of a Thousand Corpses shirt. I dig Rob Zombie's music for the most part. He seems like a cool dude. He's got a great appreciation for horror, but I don't know if Halloween was a right fit for him. I'm very torn on the whole first hour of the movie showing Michael Myers' upbringing and childhood. I don't know if that's necessary or if that makes the character any more compelling. If anything, I think the more you know about Michael Myers, the less scary he becomes. The biggest thing about Carpenter's classic is that Michael Myers is just a kid that snaps for no rhyme or reason and just turns into a monster, and there's nothing in his upbringing to show or you can point to say that's why he did it. And then when we get into the actual shot-for-shot remake, which is the second half of the movie, plays a little bit better for me, but the movie's just not fun to watch. Terrible characters with terrible dialogue, dying in miserable, gruesome ways, and everybody's screaming screaming the whole entire movie. I know I have a lot of negative things to say about it, and this is relatively higher in my ranking. I rank these more by entertainment value. I would rather watch this than most of all the ones below it in the list. Could also just be recency bias. I don't think this is nearly as bad as people say or think it is. There was more that Rob Zombie could have done to make it his own, which I think we'll get into in its sequel. It's definitely not great. All right, next up, and this might be a little controversial, is the OG Halloween 2. And this is one of the ones I've only seen once, and it was a few years ago at this point, so this might be unfairly ranked. I know a lot of people like this a lot more and regard it as one of the better sequels in the franchise. For me personally, it was just a little underwhelming. I think the hospital could be an interesting setting. I just remember it being a bit of a boring movie. It's really underwhelming. Definitely higher up in the ranking for me personally, though, for the main reasons of Dean Cundey and John Carpenter's writing, elevated above a lot of this other schlock, and also that it's a direct continuation from the first movie. Obviously, Jamie Lee Curtis comes back. I think Michael Myers looks good here. It's the same mask from the OG, even though it looks entirely different. And of course, Donald Pleasance is here, back, and crazier than ever.
I shot him 6 times! I shot him 6 times! I shot him in the heart! I shot him 6 times! He's not human!
There's a lot of good things about Halloween 2, but overall, it's just not one of the most entertaining sequels to me personally. I think it might climb up the ranks a little bit higher on a revisit.
Halloween 2. More of the night he came home.
All right, next up is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Definitely a controversial take, I'd say, to have this above the original Halloween 2. I just watched this one for the first time today, so it's the freshest in my brain. It's definitely not a fun movie, a little miserable, but I definitely commend Rob Zombie for taking his own direction with this film, more so than the 2007 remake. I think he really made this his own. It's bleak, it's brutal, it's gory. It's not as vulgar and repulsive as I think the 07 movie is in terms of dialogue and just like some of the gratuitous nudity and just absolute terrible characters. There's still some of that here, don't get me wrong, but I think it's dialed back a little bit. It's a cool movie. I liked it a lot. I don't think I'm going to really be dying to revisit it or rewatch it anytime soon, but in terms of Halloween sequels, I think it's unique, it's interesting, it does something different, and I think that alone needs to be respected. Even if it's not everybody's cup of tea, I personally enjoyed it. All right, the hot takes continue. Halloween Ends is going to be next up in my ranking here. The first time I saw it, I enjoyed it. It was definitely not the sequel that I think anybody was expecting or maybe was told we were going to get given the marketing for this movie. If you were expecting some big showdown between Michael and Laurie Strode, I mean, you get it for like the last 15 minutes of the movie, but this is an entirely different Halloween movie. David Gordon Green tried something different, and much like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I commend him for that. I think the whole character of Corey Cunningham is interesting. I like the direction they took with it. I just wish it was handled a little bit differently. The whole showdown with Laurie and Michael should have happened in Halloween Kills. Like, book closed. That would have made Halloween Kills a more substantial movie and not feel like it was just kind of spinning its wheels. It would have given Halloween Ends more freedom to be its own thing, to explore how evil spreads like a virus in this town of Haddonfield and how it infected, Corey Cunningham and turned him into a monster. If they could have just made that whole movie on its own in Halloween Ends, I feel like maybe people would have come around to it more. And I think, like I said, if they would have put the whole showdown between Laurie and Michael into Halloween Kills, I think that would have made that movie better too. But we got this Frankenstein's monster of the Corey Cunningham movie, and then the conclusion to the trilogy between Laurie and Michael, and I think, unfortunately, that ended up, pleasing nobody, and this movie was widely panned as a result. All right, next up, and this is, the top 4 for me now, getting into, the heavy hitters in the Halloween franchise. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. I think this is just a classic sequel. It's got everything you'd expect out of a Halloween movie. Donald Pleasance running around being a madman. Michael Myers running around being a madman. You got little Danielle Harris, who's acting her heart out, honestly. I think she does great as Jamie, the daughter of Laurie Strode. Jamie Lee Curtis is not in this movie, of course. I don't think she really would have had much to do if they would have brought her back, but I do think this movie is just a classic Halloween sequel. It looks good. It's 80s as hell. It's got a cool score. It's one of the better sequels for sure. Played better for me on a rewatch. It looked great in 4K. I think Halloween 4 is just one of the coziest, one of the most Halloween feeling of the Halloween movies, aside from the original, of course. It's a great time. I love Halloween 4. Speaking of Halloween movies that I love, Halloween 3 is high up there. What can I say about Halloween 3? It is totally its own thing. It's the only Halloween movie to not feature Michael Myers in really any capacity. I think he's shown on a TV in one scene. It's its own thing, John Carpenter wanted Halloween to be an anthology series after Halloween 2. I think if they would have done that for Halloween 2 instead of making another movie with Michael Myers, it would have worked a hell of a lot better. But when you make a third movie in a series and you don't bring in the main character that everyone comes to expect, you're going to piss off and disappoint a lot of people, and that's what happened. And I think, unfortunately, that expectation of what people thought this movie was going to be, I think that's forever haunted the movie. But if you can look past that and going into it that you're not getting a typical Michael Myers slasher, this movie is so much fun. It's total 80s cheese. Tom Atkins is hilarious as this just awful doctor who decides to investigate a murder of a local man. I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't seen Halloween 3, because I think it's totally worth your time to check out, if not for just how bonkers it is. I think it's a really, really fun time. Halloween 3, I think, is endlessly rewatchable. It's a perfect movie to put on for the Halloween season. Check it out if you have not. Big recommend from me. All right, guys, and number 2 in the ranking, Halloween 2018, the best sequel for me personally. I think especially if you watch this directly after the original Halloween, it plays really well. It makes sense. This is where I think we would find Laurie Strode 40 years later. I think everybody does a great job in this movie. Like I had mentioned earlier, James Jude Courtney is an awesome Michael Myers. His portrayal is scary, imposing, terrifying. There's some brutal kills and gore in this movie. As a whole, it's an incredible Halloween sequel. It shows a lot of love for the original while also doing its own thing. I think there's a reason this movie was such a huge success and led to 2 more sequels. It just did everything right. I know we're going to get another Halloween movie. I mean, it's just never going to end. But I personally think this was the best way to cap off the franchise. Don't get me wrong, I do like Halloween Kills to an extent, and I do like Halloween Ends a lot. But if Halloween 2018 would have just been the sequel to the original and they ended it at that, I would have been totally happy with that. I think this is a perfect cap off for the character of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, and I think it is the best Halloween sequel. But as I'm sure comes to no surprise to anybody, the best Halloween movie is, of course, the original Halloween from 1978 by John Carpenter. This is a timeless classic. A little ashamed to admit it, I only saw it for the first time a few years ago, but the first time I did watch this movie was in the movie theater, and that was such a cool experience to have, to watch this classic movie for the first time on the big screen. I was tense on the edge of my seat the whole time. The movie worked for me so well. I wasn't viewing it like through a lens of nostalgia. I was watching it with fresh eyes for the first time, and it 100% held up. It's just such a masterpiece. I mean, I love John Carpenter. I think Halloween is far and beyond his most iconic piece of work. It's just such a great movie. Obviously, it inspired so many slashers to come and really changed the horror genre forever, and I just think it's a classic for a reason. If you have not seen Halloween, what are you doing? Go watch Halloween right now. I might go watch Halloween right now. Halloween is one of my favorite horror franchises, and while I can definitely admit that a lot of the sequels are not good or necessary, it holds a special place in my heart. I think if you're a fan of horror, of course, you're at least familiar with the character of Michael Myers. If you haven't seen some of these movies, I think most of them are worth your time to go check out. And if not, at the very least, make sure you've seen the original 1978 Halloween.
Halloween, the night he came home.
Hey guys, Colin from the future here, recording because I realized I literally forgot to say thanks. Here is my final ranking, by the way, my list. And yeah, guys, let me know your favorite Halloween movies. Put your personal ranking below. I hope you have an awesome Halloween. Hope everyone had a great October, watched a lot of scary movies. Thank you so much for checking out my videos. Take it easy.